Hi, my name is Cecilia and I work at the School of Education and Communication at Jönköping University. This year we have the honor of being hosts for the ECADOC Summer School for doctoral students. And the theme, formulated by my colleague Ingela Bergmo-Privolovic, is lifelong guidance in contexts of lifelong learning. This year, we connect lifelong guidance with lifelong learning as they are linked in policy and practice. In this mini-lecture, I will introduce the concept lifelong learning by presenting an overall framework based on 3 perspectives. This provides a framework to understand the many different ways that the concept is used in society. Lifelong learning is a somewhat elastic concept. In everyday use, it refers to the learning that takes place throughout life, from the time we are born until our death. About 50 years ago, it was established as a concept in the education discourse. At that time, education was basically seen as concerning children's development and had a focus on classroom education. The concept lifelong learning sets fact on that learning is an ongoing process of every age, and that learning takes place in every context, not just within the confines of the school classroom. So based on this, a general definition of the concept lifelong learning is a process which takes place continually throughout the duration of a person's life, and such learning occurs in every context where the person may find themselves. This basic definition is in line with different perspectives on lifelong learning. In this lecture, I want to highlight lifelong learning from 3 overarching perspectives. Lifelong learning in terms of policy, theories about learning throughout life, and the structure of education systems. Although these areas are intertwined, they allow us to examine the concept of lifelong learning from different viewpoints. The first perspective, lifelong learning as policy, is concerned with discussing how political intentions are expressed in policy and how the significance of lifelong learning has changed over time. A holistic view of the human being, professional life, and citizenship, those 3 has informed our society during the past 50 years. But many researchers report that a shift has taken place from a humanistic approach, where the individual as a human being and citizen is at the core of policy, to a capitalist approach, where the individual is primarily seen as a source of labor. The second perspective, lifelong learning as theory, is concerned with discussing theories about human learning processes, with a focus on adult learning. There are several well-known authors in this field, and one of the pioneers is Peter Jarvis, who has presented a holistic theory from an existential point of view. This theory can be understood as a philosophy of education, which awards the individual's learning a central position and argues that this must be our starting point if we are to understand what learning is about. At the same time, the theory indicates that learning continually takes place in relation to a situation-bound context. Lifelong learning is thus, according to Peter Jarvis' theory, based on an understanding of the individual's learning that goes on within the individual and the interaction between the individual and her environment. The third perspective, lifelong learning as an education system, is concerned with discussing the practical arrangement where different institutions provide educational content. It is common to encounter a linear model for how education should be provided, where one level is seen as a preparation for the next level. An education system can be a national education system in a country, but it can also be education systems that are developed within organizations. Currently, there is also an ongoing debate in Europe about a system for recognition of adults' prior learning to acknowledge the learning which takes place but is not documented in grades or degree certificates. If we compare these perspectives, then lifelong learning is assigned somewhat different significance. At the same time, it should be noted that there exists a degree of consensus between the three, and they are not entirely different. An important similarity is that they are all necessary for building a democratic society. The multiple interpretations of lifelong learning can, however, be confusing, and they have impact in different areas. For example, if lifelong learning is equated with an education system rather than as a philosophy of education, this places focus on the institution instead of on the individual's learning. So the three perspectives presented here, lifelong learning as policy, theory, and education system, enable us to start entangling how the concept is used in different contexts. In the summer school, we can continue to discuss how lifelong learning and lifelong guidance are connected from different perspectives. Thank you very much.